What is up, Earthnoids, Space Noids, and everything in between? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode, we are deep diving into Cucuruz Doan's Island. We will cover both the movie and the very poorly animated episode. If you are watching this video upon release, you are able to watch Cucuruz Doan's Island for free on Gundam Info YouTube channel. Check out the link below. So let's start by getting into the movie Cucuruz Doan's Island. A GM is fleeing while initiating suppressing fire. The pilot is in fear of his life. Out of the smoke and debris, a Zaku appears. The Zaku chases down the GM and destroys it. The Zaku also destroys a gun parry on the island. In the distance, children hear the Zaku defend the island. In Las Palmas, White Base is docked. EFF higher-ups want Bright and the White Base crew to investigate what happened to the GM. Bright is not really interested in the mission. Okay, writers, I get it. It is like a metaphor for how little interest you had in animating the original episode. More on that later. Jobjon, Kai, and Amado, along with this guy, launch in the gun parry. Meanwhile, Mirai and Bright have some coffee. He reflects on how hard he has been on Amado. Nice retconning of Bright having some sort of opinion on his actions during the war. It's a good thing, but remember, Bright is only 19 years old. He was flung into this position when his entire crew died. As much as I appreciate giving Bright agency, he was young during a horrible war. This dude's testosterone is going at full force. It is not weighed down by gravity whatsoever. They land on the island during a cloudy day. Kai launches in the gun cannon, and Amado launches in the Gundam. They split off and scout the island. Kai reports back to Bright, during which a bunch of children start throwing rocks at the gun cannon. While looking over a cliff, a Zaku sneaks up behind the Gundam and begins grappling with it. Amado loses his beam rifle. The Zaku pulls out his Heat Hawk, and the Gundam its Beam Saber. They begin a melee battle. Suddenly, the cliffside breaks off. Amado falls into the ocean. The gun parry and gun tank lose contact with Amado. White Base tries to contact the Gundam with no luck. Bright asks Lieutenant Slager to go out and find him. We haven't talked about Lieutenant Slager because in the original series, he hasn't been introduced and won't be introduced until after the Battle of Jaburo, which has already happened in this timeline. More on that later. Amado dreams of his father and his mother. We also skipped the episode with his mother because this scene sums it up. Amado's mom is sad and he is a child of war. That's about it. Amado sees his boyfriend Char and wakes up. He leaves a mysterious room and finds a bunch of children with a man digging. This is Cucuruz Doan. Amado asks Doan where is his Gundam. The children begin to hate on him. Amado notices that the mysterious building is the lighthouse shown during his mission briefing earlier. He goes to search for his Gundam alone. Now this is a 22-minute episode stretched into a movie. We get a lot of walking in this movie to pad out that runtime. Amado walks, and I mean he walks. Meanwhile, Doan and the children enjoy dinner. One of the older children, Kara, goes out to find Amado. She brings him some water and drives him back to the lighthouse. The kids talk about lighting the lighthouse for the first time. Amado and Kara return. Kara gives Amado some food. The children go to bed, but not before saying thanks to Doan. At Belfast, General Revel is planning his attack on Odessa Day. He wants White Base to be there. Bright is given orders to leave for Belfast immediately, even though they haven't found Amado yet. Lieutenant Sleger and Kai start scheming. Makuve informs General Gop of the EFF that they should stop attacking Gibraltar, or Zeon will start attacking major Earth cities. In Casablanca, we are introduced to the Southern Cross Corps, all piloting a MS-06GD Zaku High Mobility Type Surface Type. They take out the remaining GMs in the area. The newest member of the group talks about wanting to work with Cucuruz Doan. Egba, the new leader, holds a knife to his mobile suit's throat, which absolutely would do nothing, right? It isn't a human. You can't slit a mobile suit's throat. Anyways, we learn that Cucuruz Doan was once the leader of the group, and the remaining members seem to have a great disdain towards him. Doan also dreams about his past with the Southern Cross Corps before Kara comes in to bring him a beverage. The next day, Amado helps out around the farm, watches a kid milk some goat titties, and then he eventually goes out and looks for his mobile suit. Back at White Base, Slugger asks Sayla to let him ride her. It begins to rain. Amado heads back to the lighthouse. After the rain, the kids were able to collect rainwater, but the pipe seems to be broken. Doan, Amado, and Marcos go to repair the broken pipe. The next day, Doan heads out by himself. Marcos follows Doan, and Amado follows Marcos. Marcos wants to pilot the Gundam, but Amado demands for it back. Marcos fights Amado to prove his strength, but Doan asks both of them to leave. Inside of the secret cove hides a nuclear missile that Doan seems to be prepping. Now remember, modern UC nukes also contain Minovsky particles. Because of this, Makuve notices Minovsky disruption around the island and suggests its saboteur. Makuve brings in the Southern Cross Corps to scout out the island. The Zeon team instantly realizes that the saboteur is none other than Cucuruz Doan. Marcos and Amado head back to the lighthouse, but notices the ominous clouds and lighting are incoming. Meanwhile, Sleger, the Gunperry, and Sayla launch to rescue Amado. Bright distracts the Fetty higher-ups to delay heading to Belfast as he catches on to Sleger's plan. He then notices that a group of Zeon forces are heading towards the island. Kara attempts to console the kids. Marcos and Amado make their way back. Amado fixes the battery and brings power back to the lighthouse. He then activates the lighthouse light. As Doan heads back, he notices that the lighthouse is up and running. He rushes back. Doan tells Amado that he shouldn't have done that. The Gunperry makes its way back to the island. At the same time, the Southern Cross Corps arrives as well. Doan notes that he can't run away from his past. Amado, Marcos, and Doan head back to the secret cove. The Southern Cross Corps are hanging to the bottom of docks. They drop from the docks. Sleger and the GM is riding on the back of the core booster, piloted by Sayla. Sleger takes out the dock. We will talk more on the core booster in a later video, but this definitely is something that changes the timeline in the original Gundam series. Doan heads out in Zaku while Amado nearly drowns. Meanwhile, Sayla crash lands and Sleger nosedives into the rocks, literally losing his head. Hayato and Kai are in gun cannons. The Southern Cross Corps takes both of them out real quick. Luckily, they are able to eject. Doan makes his appearance on the battlefield. The guy seems really excited to kill Doan. He tries and fails horribly, but he is kind of happy to be killed by Doan. This guy and his whole team seem kind of like sadists. Amado wakes up, but two of the Southern Cross Corps members enter the secret cove. Amado and Marcos hide. One goes and looks for the nuke. The other notices Amado moving. He investigates. Amado sneaks into the Gundam. The Zaku pulls off a giant tarp, revealing the Gundam. The Gundam uses his beam saber to get off one of the cleanest kills in UC. That Zaku is probably still usable after that. Clean and efficient. The pilot on foot looking for the nuke investigates the noise. Big mistake as the Gundam just steps on the guy. Back outside, Doan takes out another Zaku. Blanca, the goat, gets loose, while Kai, Jobjan, and Hayato regroup after ejecting. They are met with the threat of the goat. All that is left for Doan is the new Captain Egba. He takes off Doan's left arm. Doan seems to be at a disadvantage. Vulcan cannons erupt in the distance. It is Amado. Egba targets the Gundam. They fight at the edge of the cliff, similar to the Gundam that Doan fought earlier. Amado backs the Zaku into a corner before using his beam saber to take out the mobile suit. All of a sudden, the nuke goes off. General Gop of the Federation reacts with anti-air defense. However, the defenses fail. They assume the worst, but the bombs do not come back down. They go off outside of Earth's atmosphere. Doan used the nukes for fireworks for one of the young children whose birthday is today. The Federation is relieved they won't die today. It is morning. Amado mentions that the smell of war is still on Doan's hands. Amado helps Doan by taking his Zaku and throwing it into the ocean. No longer is Doan tied to his past. Finally, the White Base crew is ready to depart for Belfast. It does a flyby over Cucuruz Doan's island as one last farewell. And that is the movie. Now, let's compare that to the show. In the show, the Gunperry, piloted by Ryu and Jobjan, head out to the island. Amado in the Gundam goes out, but quickly transforms into the core fighter. He finds some injured pilots before running into the children and Cucuruz Doan and his very ugly Zaku. Doan takes out Amado's core fighter. Similar to the movie, Amado wakes up and helps the children and Kara. Suddenly, random Dops and Zakus show up on the island. The Southern Cross Corps does not exist in this version. Doan and Amado work together to take out the Zakus. Doan takes out the final Zaku, which I appreciate more than the movie, which gives Amado kind of the credit for the final kill. After the battle, Amado suggests that war stays with him, and he throws the Zaku off into the ocean. White Base makes its way to the island to pick up its crew. So where does this movie fit into the timeline? Well, this seems to be in its own thing, separate from the original MSG series as well as MSG The Origin. There are elements that might suggest that it takes place in the Origin timeline, such as Ryu already being dead and the Battle of Jaburu already taking place. We know the Battle of Jaburu occurred because of the appearance of Lieutenant Slugger Law, as well as the distribution of GM units, which doesn't happen until White Base heads back into space. In the original episode, Ryu was still alive and was the one piloting the Gunperry. He is nowhere to be seen in the movie. Also, we get to see the core booster in action, which hasn't made an appearance yet in the show. Also, the Southern Cross Corps is made up simply for the movie and doesn't seem to relate to anything that happens in MSG The Origin, MSD Cucuruz Doan's Island, the manga. So who really knows where this stands when it comes to everything else in the UC timeline? But that will do it for this video. Let me know where you think this stands in the UC timeline. In our next video, we are going to continue our adventure on Earth as we run into the black tri-stars. Until next time, new types, don't let your past catch up to you. Peace.